1 aircraft carrier, 75 aircraft, hundreds of interceptor missiles, and now a laser weapon that shoots down drone swarms at the speed of light, running on unlimited power with a cost per shot of almost nothing. The U.S. Navy's aircraft carriers are not simply ships. They are the most powerful floating war machines ever built by any civilization in recorded history. And most Americans, even proud, lifelong supporters of this military, have never been told the full story of what these vessels actually carry. The jets? Everyone's seen those. But the real arsenal? That's buried in layers. Systems stacked on top of systems. Weapons the Navy quietly tested, quietly deployed, and quietly kept secret, sometimes for months, before telling the public they even existed. That story starts right now. Introduction. Everything you are about to hear is verified. Every single capability in this script comes directly from official U.S. Navy records, the U.S. Naval Institute, Army recognition, and defense publications, some of them published within the last 72 hours as of when this video was made. By the time this is over, you will understand not just what a U.S. aircraft carrier carries, but why America's enemies spend billions of dollars every year building weapons specifically designed to try to defeat it. And why, despite all of that effort, none of them have. Before we go any further, if you believe the U.S. military remains the most powerful and most honorable fighting force on this planet, drop the word proud in the comments right now. Let's see how many of us are watching. Section 1. The Air Wing. 75 aircraft, 1 mission. Start with what sits on the deck, because even this part is misunderstood. A modern U.S. carrier strike group is built around a carrier air wing. On the USS Gerald R. Ford, currently the most advanced carrier in the entire fleet, that air wing consists of roughly 75 aircraft, not 75 of the same model. 75 aircraft representing multiple different roles, each one selected to fill a specific gap in the overall combat picture. The backbone of that force is the FA-18E and F Super Hornet. Between 40 and 44 of these aircraft deploy on a single carrier. These jets are multi-role workhorses. In a single mission, a Super Hornet can suppress enemy air defenses, drop precision bombs on a ground target, engage enemy aircraft in a dogfight, and return to the ship, all before most adversary air forces have finished their pre-flight checks. But the Super Hornet is not the most advanced aircraft on the deck anymore. Several carrier air wings have now integrated the F-35C Lightning II, the Navy's 5th-generation stealth fighter, and calling it a fighter undersells what it actually does. The F-35C is as much a sensor platform as it is a weapons platform. Its radar and electronic systems can detect threats at extreme range, share that information in real time across the entire strike group, and build a picture of the battlefield that no adversary aircraft can match. When an F-35C flies with a group of Super Hornets, it doesn't just add its own firepower to the fight. It makes every aircraft around it more aware, more accurate, and more lethal. And that is only the beginning of the air wing story. 5 EA-18G Growler aircraft are embedded in every carrier air wing. The Growler is built on the same airframe as the Super Hornet, but instead of carrying bombs and missiles as its primary weapons, it carries electronic warfare systems so advanced that they function as weapons in their own right. The Growler can jam enemy radar across a wide area, making it impossible for the enemy to track anything in the sky. It can suppress enemy surface-to-air missile systems, clearing the path for strike aircraft to hit their targets. It can disrupt communications across hundreds of miles. Before a single bomb falls in a major U.S. air campaign, Growlers have already entered the fight, quietly, invisibly, stripping the enemy of its ability to see, communicate, and defend itself. Then there are the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye aircraft, 4 to 5 per carrier. These are the battle managers of the air wing. Flying high above the strike group, each Hawkeye carries a massive rotating radar dome that can track hundreds of targets simultaneously aircraft, missiles, surface ships, across a range of several hundred miles. Every pilot in the air wing knows exactly where threats are because the Hawkeye is feeding that data to them in real time. Finally, 6 to 8 MH-60R and Seahawk helicopters complete the picture. These aircraft handle anti-submarine warfare, logistics runs between ships, search and rescue, and surface surveillance. They are the connective tissue of the entire strike group. 75 aircraft, every single one with a specific role. Every single one deeply integrated with every other asset in the group. And that is still only the first layer. Section 2. The Missile Wall, a defense no enemy can break. When adversary planners sit down and study how to defeat a U.S. carrier strike group, the missile defense architecture is what keeps them awake at night. Because it is not just one layer of defense, it is 5. The outermost layer begins with the Standard Missile-6, the most capable surface-to-air missile in the U.S. Navy's inventory. The SM-6 can engage aircraft, cruise missiles, and even ballistic missiles at ranges exceeding 100 miles. It can engage targets flying high in the atmosphere and targets skimming just above the wave tops. Each Arleigh Burke-class destroyer in the strike group carries nearly 100 missiles in its vertical launch system. Not all of them SM-6, but a combination of offensive and defensive rounds tailored to the mission. The Ticonderoga-class cruiser that often sails with a strike group carries nearly 125 missiles, and its Aegis combat system, one of the most sophisticated battle management platforms ever built, coordinates the entire missile defense picture for the group. The Aegis doesn't just fire missiles. It sees threats, classifies them, prioritizes them, assigns defensive missiles to each one, and tracks the intercepts all simultaneously. Moving inward toward the carrier, the next layer is the Standard Missile-3. This is a ballistic missile interceptor. It was not designed to hit aircraft. It was designed to destroy incoming ballistic missiles in the upper atmosphere, sometimes above the edge of space. That means a U.S. carrier strike group doesn't just defend against jets and cruise missiles. It can defend against weapons launched from land, hundreds or even thousands of miles away, traveling at speeds no aircraft can match. Closing in further still, the RIM-162 evolved Sea Sparrow missile provides medium-range point defense directly around the carrier. It is fast, accurate, and capable of engaging multiple threats simultaneously. At close range, the RIM-116 rolling airframe missile system, mounted directly on the carrier, takes over. It is a rapid-fire, autonomous defense system. It detects incoming threats, locks on, and launches with minimal human input. It is designed to react faster than a human operator could ever manually respond. And as the absolute final barrier, the phalanx close in weapon system. A radar-controlled, 6-barrel 20mm rotary cannon that fires at a rate of 4,500 rounds per minute. Anything that gets through every other layer of this defense meets the phalanx. 5 separate layers of missile and gun defense. Hundreds of interceptor rounds, spread across an entire strike group. Coordinated by one of the most advanced battle management systems ever designed. Section 3. EMALS and the radar edge. Seeing first, striking first. The Ford-class carriers didn't just get new aircraft. They got a completely redesigned launch system that changed the physics of how a carrier operates. For decades, U.S. carriers launched aircraft using steam-powered catapults. Giant cylinders of pressurized steam would fire, driving a piston down a track, hurling the aircraft off the bow at launch speed. The system worked for more than half a century. But it was heavy. It was mechanically complex. It required enormous amounts of steam, which meant enormous amounts of maintenance, and it put significant stress on the airframes of the aircraft it launched. The Ford class replaced all of that with EMALS, the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System. EMALS uses a linear induction motor, an electromagnetic track embedded in the flight deck, to accelerate aircraft to launch speed. The key difference is precision. With steam, the launch energy was a fixed variable, difficult to adjust, and impossible to fine-tune in real time. With EMALS, the launch energy can be adjusted for every individual aircraft every single time. A heavy, fully loaded FA-18 gets a different launch profile than a lighter, lightly armed drone. The system optimizes itself. During actual combat operations, EMALS has delivered meaningfully higher sortie rates than Nimitz-class carriers can achieve. More launches per day, more missions per deployment, more sustained firepower. EMALS also pairs with the Advanced Arresting Gear, AAG, which replaces the old hydraulic wire systems used to catch landing aircraft. Together, these two systems make the Ford class capable of operating aircraft that older carriers simply cannot, including future unmanned aircraft with unique weight and speed profiles. Meanwhile, the Ford's AN/SPY-3 and AN/SPY-4 dual-band radar systems give it a detection capability unlike any previous carrier. Most warships operate a single radar band. The Ford runs two simultaneously, one optimized for tracking missiles and close-range threats, the other built for long-range surface and air surveillance. Nothing approaches a Ford-class carrier without being seen, tracked, and targeted well before it arrives. Section 4. The Secret Weapon. The laser the Navy hid for 7 months. Now here is where this story takes a turn most people are not expecting. On October 5th, 2025, out in the Atlantic Ocean, the USS George H.W. Bush became the site of a weapons test that no one outside the Navy knew had happened. Not a missile. Not a gun. A laser, fired from the flight deck of a U.S. aircraft carrier for the very first time in naval history. The system is called Locust. A palletized, containerized laser weapon developed by AeroVironment, powered entirely by the ship's own electrical systems. In a live-fire exercise, it detected, tracked, engaged, and neutralized multiple drone targets, including full drone swarms. Every single one. The Navy held that information for 197 days before releasing 3 photographs and a brief statement on April 20th, 2026. The reason was straightforward. The moment an adversary knows a new defensive capability exists, they start engineering around it. The Navy wanted it proven first. Here is why this changes everything. A Standard Missile 6 costs approximately $4 million per intercept. The drones Iran-backed forces fire at U.S. ships cost a few $100s each. That exchange rate was a real problem. The laser eliminates it completely, firing at the speed of light at almost zero cost per shot, drawing from a nuclear-powered source that never runs dry. No magazine, no resupply, no depletion, just an unlimited directed energy weapon sitting on the most powerful ship in the world. Section 5. Unmanned arsenal ships. The fleet within the fleet. The laser weapon represents one side of a transformation happening across the entire U.S. carrier strike group concept. The other side is unmanned. The U.S. Navy is actively developing what it calls Large Unmanned Surface Vessels, LUSVs. These are large, crewless ships designed to sail alongside the carrier strike group carrying a specific payload, missiles. Nothing else. 10 to 15 of these vessels, in the Navy's current concept, would be configured as floating missile magazines, each one loaded with a combination of Standard Missile 6, Standard Missile 3, and evolved Sea Sparrow interceptors. They would position themselves between the carrier and any incoming threat corridor, adding defensive depth to the strike group without requiring additional crewed ships and without putting additional sailors at risk. Simultaneously, 15 to 20 unmanned underwater platforms, equipped with towed sonar arrays and torpedoes, would patrol the waters around the carrier continuously, monitoring for submarines attempting to approach. The first LUSV is projected to cost approximately $497 million. The Navy plans to have 6 of them by the end of this decade. The test firing of containerized Standard Missile 6 rounds from an unmanned surface vessel has already been conducted successfully, confirming the concept is not theoretical. It is happening. Combined with the carrier's air wing, the strike group's surface combatants, the submarine operating silently below, and now unmanned surface and subsurface vessels extending the group's reach, the modern carrier strike group is evolving into something that has never existed before in naval. History. Section 6. The full picture. 3 carriers in the Middle East right now. Everything described in this video, the aircraft, the missiles, the radar, the lasers, the unmanned systems, is not theoretical. It is active. As of late April 2026, 3 U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups are simultaneously operating in the Middle East: the USS Abraham Lincoln, the USS Gerald R. Ford, and the USS George H.W. Bush. Together, these 3 strike groups represent over 200 aircraft and 15,000 military personnel in one concentrated region. Defense analysts have called this one of the most significant U.S. naval postures in recent memory, a deliberate demonstration of capability, resolve, and reach that no adversary operating in that region can ignore. This nation built these ships, these aircraft, these weapons, and the men and women who operate them. And right now, they are deployed, they are ready, and they are doing what the U.S. military has done for generations, standing watch so others don't have to. Conclusion. 75 aircraft, hundreds of missiles, a dual-band radar that sees threats before they arrive, an electromagnetic launch system pushing more sorties than any carrier before it, and now a laser weapon the Navy quietly tested and held from the public for nearly 7 months. The U.S. aircraft carrier is not simply a ship. It is the most capable, most lethal, and most complex military platform ever built, and the men and women operating it are the best this country has ever produced. If this video gave you something real, hit that like button and subscribe. Every video on this channel is built to give you the full story behind the hardware defending this nation. Hit subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.